What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Where Is. I hope everyone is having an amazing day. So, today I wanted to discuss two tragic cases with you guys, and both involve being on a cruise ship. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and discuss the first case. So, the first case we will be discussing is of Joanna Brooks. Now, Joanna Brooks was born on December 6th in 1973. She was a resident of Lafayette, Louisiana, and she was 44 years old at the time. Now, she was married, and her husband's name was Scott Brooks, and he had surprised her with a trip on a 5-day cruise as a Christmas gift. Now, this was going to be Joanna's first cruise, so I'm sure she was excited about the trip. So, the cruise that Scott booked for them was sailing from New Orleans to Cozumel, Mexico, and it was set to depart on January 20th of 2018. So, on Saturday, January 20th, they went aboard Carnival Triumph to depart for their trip to Cozumel. Now, Carnival Triumph is actually no longer Carnival Triumph, but is now called Carnival Sunrise. So it was their second night on the cruise, and Joanna and her husband Scott reportedly had dinner at a restaurant aboard the ship. And according to other passengers on the ship, Joanna and Scott had been arguing while at dinner, and apparently the argument got a bit out of hand, and Joanna and Scott were both escorted out of the restaurant by security. So, after being escorted out of the restaurant, it had been about 30 minutes after dinner, and Joanna had gone overboard. Now, according to reports, Joanna had gone over her balcony that Sunday night. Now, witnesses have said that her husband was on the balcony as well when it happened, and according to reports, Scott was held under the cruise ship security from that point on. Now, according to a passenger that stayed on the same side as Joanna, stated that as they were looking over their balcony after discovering that she had gone over, there was a life ring that had been thrown out for her, as well as the searchlight searching for Joanna. And according to the passenger, a lot of people were just looking over their balconies in the water for her, and that it was just a scary and sad moment. Now, according to another passenger, the ship had been going around in circles around the Gulf of Mexico as they searched for Joanna. Passengers were also reported to be on the deck, looking over, searching for her as well. Now, since she had gone overboard in the Gulf of Mexico, the Mexican Navy had taken over the search for her. They had sent a ship to search for Joanna and had allowed the Carnival Triumph to depart and continue the 5-day cruise. Now, the search did not last very long for Joanna, as the Mexican Navy ended their search on Friday, January 26th of 2018, as there was no sign of Joanna. FBI was also investigating the case to determine how she had gone overboard. Now, Scott was detained and he was questioned. However, he was never named as a suspect, nor was he charged for her disappearance, and he had returned home to Lafayette and had reportedly not spoken to her family about what exactly happened that night on the cruise. Now, according to Joanna's mother, Marilyn, the last time that she had spoken with her daughter was just before they had dinner. Now, unfortunately, her family never received many answers as to what happened to her, and sadly, the case still remains a mystery. So, what could have possibly happened that night that could have caused Joanna to go overboard? Now, it's not likely that she jumped or just accidentally fell over. Her mother says that Joanna was only 5'1" and wouldn't have been able to just jump over the rail on her own. Now, it says on Carnival's website that the height of the balcony rail is 45 inches and that the railings are around chest height on the average person, so she would have had to have climbed up onto the rail to have fallen overboard. So, was this the case, or did something more sinister happen where it wasn't just an accident? Now, again, we do know, according to reports, that her and her husband were arguing at dinner. They were escorted out, and 30 minutes later, she goes overboard. Now, I'm not sure if anyone has ever reported as to what Joanna and Scott could have been arguing about, but whatever it was, do you believe that it was enough for Scott to do something to Joanna that caused her to go overboard? Now, again, Scott was never named as a suspect, but I would love to know what you all think could have happened, and I hope one day her family can receive some more answers. Now, our next case also involves a trip on a cruise, and that is the case of Zion Smith. Zion Smith was just 8 years old when she fell 2 stories from a Carnival cruise ship back in October of 2017. She was from the Bahamas, and her and her family flew into Miami from the Bahamas on Sunday for the trip. Now, the ship that they were on was Carnival Glory, which had just returned back to Miami from the cruise, which was a week-long Caribbean cruise and had just docked. Now, she was on the cruise with her brother, her mom's boyfriend, along with a few of his family members. So, as the ship was docked, passengers were anxious and they were in a hurry to disembark the ship. Now, Zion was on the fifth floor where she was waiting with her family to disembark the ship. So it was around 8:15 a.m. and Zion had reportedly been on her tippy toes and she was looking over the railing at the passengers that were disembarking from the third floor, assuming she was just looking over, trying to see what all the commotion was. So, as she's looking over the railing, again on her tippy toes, that is when she fell over the railing and she fell 2 stories onto the lower deck level and she hit her head on a wooden table. Now, as she landed, her mother reportedly started screaming, my baby, and she ran down the stairs to her. Now, other passengers on the ship, as well as staff on the boat, they definitely tried to do everything that they could to save her. There was a retired emergency medical technician that had performed CPR on Zion as they awaited for the doctors on board and for the police to arrive. Now, she was transported to Jackson Memorial Hospital to the Ryder Trauma Center, but unfortunately, she was pronounced deceased. Now, one relative says that Zion was only out of their sight for a few seconds when it happened. Some of her family members also said that they believe as the elevator door opened, there were several people that were pushing and shoving to get out, which could have then caused Zion to get pushed over the rail. Some of her family from the Bahamas actually flew into Miami to get more answers as to what actually happened. Now, her family was requesting to see surveillance footage from Carnival, as well as visiting Carnival headquarters for more answers. Her family also visited the medical examiner's office on that following Monday and stated that they wanted to hire an attorney and meet with Carnival Cruise Line representatives again to fully understand what happened. Now, Carnival did make their care team available to the family, according to a Carnival Cruise Line spokesperson. However, unfortunately, the family still has not received any answers as to what exactly happened, and my condolences go out to both families. Now, I would love to know what you guys think about both of these cases, and again, I hope we can shed some light on both cases and bring some answers to their families. Well, that is it for me today, you guys. And as always, please stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.